Hey everybody, it's Chris, and I'm with Dr. Michael Klapper on the Holistic Holiday at Sea cruise, and what today is,
Wednesday, it all runs together.
all the days run together, the time zones jump around, you don't know what day it is, don't know what time it is, but we managed to be here at the same time.
We did, yes.
So
accomplishment.
That is a plus, and anyway, we've got a couple days left on the cruise, and I'm just so thrilled to have Dr. Klapper take a minute out of his time, because there's 2,000 people on board that want to talk to Dr. Klapper, and there's a pretty good chunk of them that want to talk to me too.
You bet.
So, but anyway, Dr. Klapper has an amazing history. He's been a huge influence to me for many years. I've been following him and watching his videos on YouTube and his lectures, and like so many other incredible plant-based MDs, he has a really powerful message and more stories than we could ever have time to tell, but hopefully we'll tell some good ones. And so I want to just make this intro brief so we can dig in, but Michael Klapper is a medical doctor.
Indeed.
He is a plant-based MD. He was at True North, many of you have heard of, supervising medical fasting, water fasting, plant-based nutrition, and has a very long resume of accomplishments. And now he's focused on educating medical students on plant-based nutrition before they're completely indoctrinated and brainwashed, that drugs are the only solution to disease. And so we're getting into all that, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for being with me.
Thank
There's
you.
the
Good to be
official
here.
handshake.
Good to be here.
So can we start with your backstory? Would you talk about, I talked to your wife in the bookstore, and she told me that you had been eating a plant-based diet for 39 years.
Correct.
And so how did that happen?
Well, after we rolled the tape back, excuse me, to 1981, I was doing a residency in anesthesiology in Vancouver, and I was on the cardiovascular anesthesia service. That's the service that deals with people's hearts and blood vessels. And day after day, I'm putting people to sleep, and I'm watching surgeons open their chests and open the coronary arteries in their heart. And from their arteries, the surgeons would pull this yellow, greasy guck called atherosclerosis out of their arteries that was clogging them up and setting them up for heart attacks and strokes. And I knew what the stuff was. There was already papers in the medical journals about the nature of the material and the process and how you can reverse with a plant-based diet. We knew it back in the 70s.
So did you learn that in med school?
An article just went by. I had an interest in nutrition and in atherosclerosis, and because I was on that service, and so I'm just thumbing through the medical journals, and this article by Dr. Frey Ellis goes by about a patient he had with angina who went on a plant-based diet, and his angina went away, and that was in 1977. It was already in the books, and I saw that while I was on the anesthesia service. So one day, I'm watching a surgeon pull a particularly yellow, slithery piece of fatty material out of the artery, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, that stuff looks like chicken fat. And the little voice on my shoulder said, there's a good reason why it looks like chicken fat. It is chicken fat, and cow fat, and pig fat, and the fat of all the animals this man's been eating. Now, again, we knew that that's where the cholesterol was coming from, largely.
Is it hard to remove out of the artery?
No, you can. There are techniques for removing it. On my website, I've got a video of a casing. It comes out as a mold of the artery. They find a little plane between the plaque and the artery wall, and they slip a little needle with carbon dioxide in there, and as the gas goes in, it dissects away the cast, and you just pull it right out.
Oh,
it's called an
it comes out like a tube.
Like a tube, exactly. And so my dad died of clogged arteries. I clearly have the genes for it, and I knew I was going to be laying on that table while that striker saw going up my sternum, and I sure didn't want that. I saw those people when they woke up; they were very uncomfortable. And so I was getting a hint that I really ought to start getting away from the animal fat in my diet. And some weeks later, I'm out with a friend having dinner, and when I was in med school, I spent a lot of my Saturday nights in my 4th year in the trauma unit at Big Bad Old Cook County Hospital. And I saw the worst that human beings did to each other, all sorts of violent levels.
Knife wounds, gunshots.
Gunshots, shotguns, and machete wounds. And I would leave there shaking on Sunday morning. And I vowed that if I couldn't get the violence out of the world, at least I would try and get out of my own life. So I really started making a serious pursuit of living a life of nonviolence. And I started reading the Indian saints and Mahatma Gandhi and the whole concept of ahimsa, of a life without violence. And it certainly was harmonious with the direction I was evolving in. And so one evening in Vancouver, I'm out with a friend pontificating about living a life of nonviolence while I'm polishing off a porterhouse steak. And he says, Michael, that's all very nice, but if you want to get the violence out of your life, you might want to start with that piece of meat on your plate, because in satisfying your desire for the taste of flesh in your mouth, you are paying for the death of the animal and for the next one in line at the slaughterhouse. Well, as soon as he said that, all the old rationalizations, well, the animal's dead already, and then that's what they raised them for.
Yeah.
But before the words could get out of my lips, that little voice said, he's right. He's right. And when I went up to pay for the dinner, I felt complicit in a crime because I had been raised on a dairy farm. And I know the violence inherent in getting meat on the plate. There's no way to do it without shooting the bull in the head, which I participated in. I've chopped the heads off chickens. It's a violent act inherently in putting meat on the table. And here I was paying for it. And between what I was seeing in the operating room and what I knew in my heart to be right in the restaurant that night, the bells were clanging that it's time to evolve to a plant-based diet.
So you had it from both angles. You had the health and prevention side and the animal side.
Exactly. There was no place else to go.
Well, it's interesting to me that you yourself, Dr. Barnard, and Dr. Campbell all came from
farming.
Yeah, they all grew up on the farm, and
we were all given that look of the reality of it all.
Yeah, and it's a little bit opposite in the sense that I think most people that grow up on a farm become very desensitized to it, right? And they've really seen the brutality. Like 99% of people that eat animals, like they've never seen an animal be slaughtered.
Right.
Like I had a mildly traumatic experience when I was 17 or 18. My dad and I went on this like father-son adventure kind of trip in Northern California. And one night they had this sort of, I guess, ritual. I don't know what to call it, but they were trying to teach like sort of the sanctity of life, and in that you had to kill a chicken and they would cook it right for dinner, and just to give you the awareness that something did die for your meal, right? But yeah, we had to cut the chicken's head off, and I'd never done that before, and it was traumatic. I didn't go vegan or anything after, I didn't start eating plant-based diet for years later, but that's the one time, right, that I had to cut a chicken's head off, and my dad had to hold the body, and it traumatized my dad, holding the body and feeling the chicken die in his hands. Sure. So it just reminds me of that. But you saw that in spades, and
absolutely,
and it still bothered you, or you still had this.
Still did. I can still hear the most painful auditory memories I have is the sound of a mother cow locked up in a stanchion in the barn after we've taken her calf away so my uncle could get her milk. And the heart-rending, soul-tearing moos and cries from this mother cow went on hour after hour, day after day. 4 or 5 days she would bellow. I can still hear it. It still grieves me to know the suffering that's inherent in all animal products. So anyway, I stopped eating them. My body loved it. Boy, within 12 weeks, a 20-pound spare tire of fat melted off my waist. My high blood pressure went to normal. My high cholesterol came down. I felt great waking up in a nice lean body every day. And I knew at that time I didn't want to be an anesthesiologist and spend my time putting people to sleep. I'd rather go back to general practice and help them wake up. And so I did. 6 months left of my anesthesia residency, much to my parents' dismay.
You're doing what?
The money you're leaving behind. But it wasn't in truth. I wanted to go back to general practice. And so I did. And I started helping my patients evolve to plant-based diets. I found someone in the local area who would give cooking lessons. And those patients who could do it, I watched the same thing happen with them. They got leaner, their high blood pressure coming down, their diabetes got better, their blood pressure got better. I could get them off their medications. And I became the happiest doctor I know because my patients get healthy right before my eyes. And so that was 30 plus years ago, in 1981, 82. So do the math, been 38 years. And best decision I ever made outside of marrying my wife.
Were you married at the time?
No.
Okay, so you met her later?
Met her much later.
And was she eating plant-based when you met her?
Yes, she was always vegan. We
Yeah.
met at John Robbins Earth Save organization back in 1986. We met in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, the legend, John Robbins.
Indeed, yes.
I've got an interview with John. Many of you have seen it. So at what point did you become interested in fasting?
I had spent 3 years in New Zealand doing acute care medicine, and when I came back in 2009, I needed to get a job. And
let's talk about that real quick. What was acute care medicine? What did that look like?
Right. I ran a large urgent care center in Whangarei, New Zealand, about 2 hours north of Auckland. And it was standard urgent care, blood and guts, fractures and lacerations, chest pain,
emergency
kind of stuff. Right. And this is out in dairy country, so many of my clients were big, heavy ranchers and farmers that got their hands caught in machinery, things like that. And animal agriculture exacts much suffering among many beings, including the people who work in the industry. So I came back from New Zealand after 3 years. I was looking for a home down there, didn't find it, and got homesick and came back to the good old US of A. And I was looking for a job, so I interviewed at True North Health Center, and where my old friend Dr. Alan Goldhammer had been for years trying to get me to work there. So, yes, Dr. G, it's time to take you up in your offer. So, because they do therapeutic fasting there, I had no choice. I jumped boots in I better learn how to supervise the water fast, and what is the physiology of fasting? What happens? Why do they do that?
Were you skeptical of fasting at that time? I know a lot of doctors are, right?
Right. No, it's not. I knew it was powerful. I was appalled at my ignorance of it. No one ever mentioned it in medical school. It was some fringe, strange thing from the Bible, but no, they had no real awareness of it. But clearly, this Dr. Goldhammer had been doing it for 20 years, supervising fast, so there's clearly something there. And as I started reading about the physiology of fasting, it was profound as far as the changes the body makes. And then when I became an attending physician on the staff and actually was supervising fast and watched in actual human bodies go through these remarkable changes of high blood pressure coming down, of rheumatoid joints stopping the pain, the psoriatic plaques of psoriasis fading away right before our eyes, the diabetes getting better. So many remarkable improvements. It's the body, we know, has a tremendous innate capacity for healing, but a water fast will really rub the magic lamp, and the healing genie comes out, and it happens quite quickly. It's quite remarkable. But I'm certainly glad to explore that further. But the most important thing, as we emphasize to the folks who are doing the fasting, as well as your viewers here, the fast is very interesting, very dramatic, but it's a blip on the screen in the length of your life. What matters is what you eat after the fast.
Yeah.
It's the food stream day after day, month after month going through your body that creates a healthy body or one that's got disease. It's not the fast. The fast is a
jump start.
It's a jump start. But Cinderella turns back into a pumpkin very quickly if you go back to the old foods there. So
excellent analogy.
Yeah, indeed.
For the folks that are interested in fasting, I'd love for you to just talk about the typical, for a typical patient that would come into the clinic. How long would they fast for?
Right.
And what was that experience like?
Right. The average fast would be about 10 days to 2 weeks. But some people will come in just for a very short time, for 3-4 days. And some folks, the longest fast we would supervise is 40 days. And the people with runaway high blood pressure, with out of control lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, they've got to do these long fasts, migraine headache folks sometimes. And but this is medically supervised fasting. The intern knocks on the door twice a day. How you doing? Checks your vital sign. Any headaches? Any nausea? Getting lightheaded when you stand up? We watch these people like a hawk. We're drawing blood once a week. As the attending physician, I live right across the street. I was immediately available to these folks. You don't do these long fasts at home. This is medically supervised fasting. But the average fast would be 10 days. People would come in, some of them just come in for a clean out fast. They just, once a year, doc, I treat myself. Because Dr. Goldhammer runs very reasonable rates there at about $150 a day. You can't stay at the Holiday Inn for that these days. But he prices it low so people can do these long fasts. Mm-hmm. And they say, I can go to Las Vegas and come back fatter, sicker, and poorer, or I can come to True North for 2 weeks and leave leaner, healthier, and with some money in my pocket. So they would come for health vacations. But a lot of folks had actual physical issues of psoriasis or arthritis or high blood pressure. So you're asking what would we do? We would... Everyone gets a physical exam by the doctor to make sure it's medically appropriate to do this fast. Or some folks should not do a water fast if they have type 1 diabetes or kidney failure. There's folks who you need to, those folks who do a juice cleanse, not a water fast.
And certain medications would probably...
And certain medications, if they're on medications they cannot stop, if they're on prednisone or SSRIs for emotional issues, you have to stop all medications on a fast because they get potentiated. You start seeing side effects from everything on a water fast. Mm-hmm. So you stop all medications except thyroid, but that you drop down to half dosage during the water fast. And if they just...
Hello. Great. Thank you so much. Okay, Dr. Klapper, they need you to jump off the ship.
Okay, no problem. Here, I don't
no. Hey, it makes it for a more fun interview,
It does, absolutely. Yeah, it makes it authentic.
So, but you're talking about
narrating a water fast. So
some people are on medication. You're just like, you can't do that.
Yes, it's just not medically safe for them to stop the medication, and you don't want to run risk of, again, side effect potentiation. So those folks we do a juice cleanse. We bring them 4 big glasses of green juice, 9, noon, 3, and 5. And they're just sipping juices all day, and it's a wonderful thing to do. But they don't go into ketosis. They don't experience the potentiation that they can get on a water fast. For the folks who are water fasting, assuming they all check out and their blood tests are good, they have good kidney function, good liver function, we start them on a water fast. We may do 1 day of food. A lot depends on what they ate before they came in. We say, listen, whatever's in your colon is going to sit there during the fast. We don't want white bread and a salmon sandwich in there. We want fruit and vegetables only for at least 3 days before the fast for the non-vegans. And so and those who still had the bagel at the airport there, we sometimes will do an extra day on the food till they have a good bowel movement. But when it's time to start the fast, we have them drink. We go for at least 4 16-ounce glasses of water during the day, but if they want to do more than that, that's fine. And as I said, we check them.
About half a gallon.
About half a gallon.
Yeah, okay.
We check them twice a day, see how they're doing. The first day or two, some of them are a little irritable, some get a little hungry. But by day 3, as people are burned through their blood sugar and they're getting into ketosis, one of the blessings of ketosis is that hunger goes away. It's God's gift to fasters. You won't spend 2 weeks hungry. And by day 3 or 4, you're not thinking about food. It's a really remarkable thing to see. And the energy that a person would usually spend digesting food, making digestive enzymes, running their intestines, on a fast, on a water fast, that energy is freed up. and people feel it, and their energy level by day 4 or 5, they stop me in the courtyard. Doc, I haven't felt this good in years. I haven't eaten in 3 weeks, but I feel wonderful. It's counterintuitive. You think they're going to be cold and tired and hungry and whimpering on the bed, and the opposite is true. They're not hungry. They feel good. They got energy. It's a remarkable state.
It is, and I can just say, I mean, I've been in this state, and it is so strange to feel that good, knowing you haven't eaten in many days.
Exactly.
It's so weird. I can't believe I hadn't eaten in even just like 3 days.
Right,
yes. Like, wow.
By day 3 or 4, you're feeling it.
Yeah. Now, are there some ups and downs, though, for this long fast where they'll feel great for a while and they'll kind of have a down day or two and then another surge back up?
That certainly can happen. If we can stop for a minute just to put it in context, if we turn the clock back a million years, literally, back in the African savannas a million years ago, our ancient foraging tribe of ancestors probably ran into frequently having 3-4 days go by before you found the next berry bush with fruit on it.
Well, even thousands of years ago.
Even now, yeah.
Right.
And
even still some tribes in Africa.
Indeed. And so these intermittent 4 or 5 day enforced fasts were probably the rule. And that's probably happened so many times over the eons that our body knows to shift into this gear when if 72 hours goes by with no carbohydrate energy coming in and we start burning fat, there's some amazing transformations happen, and the body goes into the state of conservation. It starts burning junk sugars and proteins in cells for energy. It cleans itself out. It shuts down stem cell production to protect them, and turns off cancer growth through various mechanisms as well. And this state of well-being that people feel is part of this. And again, you want to be, if you were really starving on the African savanna, you want to be sharp and observant and energetic, and you don't want to be driven by hunger. It's a brilliant adaptive mechanism, this state of well-being that happens on a fast. And so we certainly ask people to just be there. Don't do a lot of exercise. Don't watch the news. Just be with yourself in this wonderful state. It goes up and down depending how long the fast is, and some people have low energy days, and as you say, often they're not drinking enough water, which is a real issue. But there comes that point where it's time to end the fast. Either they've accomplished their medical goals, the blood pressure is normal, the blood sugar is normal, or their lab results showing their kidneys aren't happy and their creatinine level starts going up.
And what does that indicate? Like, what does that indicate is happening?
Yeah, fasting, it can be hard on the kidneys. All this debris we have in our cells, all the in our tissues, we've got remnant molecules of every restaurant meal you ever ate. There's artificial colorings and flavorings and preservatives and dough conditioners and stabilizers and all these
environmental
chemicals,
toxins and
all that stuff,
yeah.
and uric acid and the breakdown products of as cells are dismantled. All that hits the kidneys, and as the days go by, some folks with marginal kidney function to begin with, the kidneys get stressed and a waste product called creatinine, that value starts going up, saying it's probably time to stop the fast. We don't want anyone walking out with worse kidney function than they came in with. And do no harm applies to fasting as well. And so if we see the creatinine is going up, that it's time to convert it to a juice cleanse at that point. Or if the person just says, I'm done, I just want to do this anymore, then yay, good for them that they did it at all is wonderful. And so we celebrate and bring them some juice. If that, they can always come back and do another fast. So those are the main reasons to break a fast. It's either accomplishes purpose, the person is done, or we see some lab value saying it's time to call it a day. And when that happens, we reach that point, we bring them usually a bowl of water, freshly cut watermelon chunks, or some watermelon juice, and they just sip it. We don't want them to chug it down. Just take a mouthful, let it get down into your system there, and then we usually a progression from juices. Although we often start with a glass of vegetable broth first, and then we go on to the watermelon chunks. Some folks don't want to see anything sweet. It's not pleasant to them, so we'll do vegetable soup for them and boiled zucchini chunks, and we just want to slowly introduce the solid foods. There's progression when we start adding fruits and raw vegetables each day. And over by 4 or 5 days, they're back to eating a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet.
So you like to give about 4 or 5 days for refeeding?
Yes. The rough rule of thumb is however many days you fast for, you want half again as many for the refeed. If you do a 10-day fast, you want to do a 5-day refead. So in that ballpark.
I'd love to hear your opinion on, a couple things. I don't want to get ahead of myself. We didn't get into details on this, but you touched on it. Like, what other than contributing to atherosclerosis, are there other problems or risks associated with eating animal food?
Oh my.
I'm pretending like I don't know.
Sure, right.
Whether or not there are, but
it's a vast issue. The mind reels as far as the checklist of problems with eating the animal flesh. I'll just go through several of them. You can stop me if we're running long here. But one that's very important to your situation. We want that meat, want that protein, strength. Well, when people eat a hunk of animal muscle and all those amino acids hit your liver, which they do very quickly, the liver sees all these building blocks for tissue, and the liver says, well, let's build something with them. And as a response, the liver puts out this very powerful hormone called insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1. And this stimulates the body to grow. And if you're a 8-year-old boy or a 3-month-old baby calf, boy, yay, IGF-1, you want lots of that. But if you're an adult male with a tumor, if you're a guy with a big prostate gland, you're a woman with a breast lump, the last thing you want is a surge of IGF-1 coming out of your liver in response to this protein load. So certainly high protein diets are not the friend of the patients with a malignant disease. That's for sure.
Because that hormone tells cancer cells to grow.
It tells everything to grow. Absolutely, grow. That's throwing gasoline on a fire. So that alone is reason not to consume it. These animals in the feedlot are given hormones and growth promoters to make them grow bigger. The steers get these hormone implants behind their ear. Chickens are, in the past, have been given estrogen. They're female animals to begin with. The dairy cows are pregnant, so their milk is full of estrogens. These are all growth promoting hormones, and we're eating meat and dairy, and women are getting breast lumps and fibroid tumors in their uterus. Little girls going through puberty at age 8 and 9. No, why is this happening? They're eating cow estrogens is why, and it's promoting all this growth. So
the IGF-1 plus all of these animal hormones, artificial and natural.
Absolutely. And these animals are given antibiotics because they get infection, and it makes them grow bigger. And so there's always lincomycin and tetracycline and various antibiotics that do unfriendly things to your own gut flora that we're trying to cultivate to be healthy. Here we are eating antibiotic-laced chicken and even fish these days. The farm fish are given antibiotics as well. So that's pretty reliably present in the meat. The animals in the feedlot, they don't drink pure water, and there's often heavy metals in the water. There's mercury and cadmium, lead and arsenic, and that winds up in the animal's muscle as well.
And fat too, right?
And fats. These are fat-soluble substances, the Roundup and the various insecticides and pesticides. That bioconcentrates into the animal muscle. And cows get leukemia, and there's malignancy. Chickens get lymphomas, and so you find leukemia viruses and lymphoma viruses in the chicken and in the dairy products and in the meat. Good heavens, we're feeding that to our children. What is that doing to their leukemia risk? You can find the DNA of the bovine leukemia virus in breast cancer cells in women.
I talk about this in my book, bovine leukemia virus.
Indeed.
In breast cancer. There's a pretty strong association now based on some recent research, and it's pretty shocking.
It is. So you're asking me, so what are the problems with eating meat, doctor? Well, you want me to keep going? I mean,
It's a pretty good list, and I think
really
people watching or listening are probably like, I've never thought about. They just think about, oh, I'm eating a piece of meat. I think, oh, there's hormones in it, there's heavy metals in it, there's environmental toxins in it.
Indeed.
And
you're paying for. And plus you're paying for the dreadful suffering of these beautiful innocent creatures in the factory farm system, and for the destruction of the planet. Every burger you buy, another acre of rainforest goes down, another more of the water table sinks a bit lower, with the greenhouse gases increase in the atmosphere. At what point do we say this costs too much? I don't care how that steak tastes in your mouth, it costs too much. We've used it up at this point.
I know you had to talk yesterday about these things, and do you know off the top of your head, and I always get these figures a little mixed up, so I don't want to quote them, I'm hoping you know them better than me, how many acres of land and how many gallons of water, all translate into a serving of beef, or whatever it is, or I mean, how many pounds of grain and water that...
Yes, right. Roughly every pound of beef on the plate there, between 12 and 14 pounds of grain went down that animal's gullet, 1,800 gallons of water. That's 60 bathtubs of water. And that for however long that animal lived, he's breathing out carbon dioxide, belching out methane, eating grains that have been sprayed with ammonia fertilizers that put nitrous oxide into the air. They are greenhouse gas disasters. That burger costs a lot more than $2.98 a pound, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that much water, 1,800 gallons of water, to feed the cow. And then you said how many pounds of grain?
Between 12 to 16.
Yeah, 12 to 16 pounds of grain, right, to produce a pound of steak.
That's 12, 16 loaves of bread you could have made. Yeah, how many people could you feed with 16 loaves of bread, versus 1 pound of steak there? Yeah, because most of the grain that goes in the mouth of the animal, the back end is manure, or he burns it off walking around as heat, or it turns into bone and blood and hair and hide and things that people don't eat. The amount of actual muscle you get is very small compared to the energy that went in. It's just a bankrupt system.
Yeah, 12 to 16 pounds even just of oats.
Yes.
That would be breakfast for me for like a year.
Really?
A year's worth. I buy oats by the pound and it lasts me like a month.
Exactly.
And I eat oats for breakfast every day. I mean, it really is pretty mind-boggling when you sort of break it down and see how many resources go into producing animal food, especially beef. I understand some animal foods are more economically sustainable, but anyway,
we should be using that land and water to grow food for people.
Yeah, grow grains, grow fruits and vegetables.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, because that was I love your answer. I love what you said, and I think you explained it in such a simple way that a lot of people, the wheels will be turning.
Good.
Right?
That's the object of the exercise.
Yes. Now, let's see. We covered fasting. We covered the problems with eating meat and dairy. I'd love for you to talk about the latest dietary fads, the ketogenic diet, and now the next step, the hottest new fad, the carnivore diet.
Carnivore diet.
And you don't have to talk about both, or you could. I'd love to hear your opinion on either one.
Sure. No, I'll be glad to share both.
Because we know ketosis is good in the context of fasting.
It is, correct. And ketosis is this remarkable state that the body goes into as it's shifting from burning sugars, which really is our daily fuel. We are carbohydrate burning creatures. Our mitochondria burn sugars, not fats. We really do want to be burning sugars, but if they aren't around, then the body will metabolize fats, and one of the breakdown products of the fat molecule is these small little acidic molecules called ketones. And so they're in the bloodstream when you're metabolizing fats. And the ketones have some interesting properties. One, they suppress hunger. Yay, that's very nice. And they give chemical signals to the body to turn down inflammation. They don't want to waste energy radiating heat off to the air. So inflammation recedes during a fast, and we take advantage of that. And the people with the hot inflammatory diseases, that's a good thing. And the ketones signal the cells to produce molecules called sirtuins that turn cancer growth off. If you're starving to death, your body doesn't want to waste energy running a cancer. That's a waste of energy. So the sirtuins turn the cancer off. All these wonderful things happen during the first 5, 7, 10 days of fasting. And I think everybody would benefit from once a year, twice a year, spend 5 days in ketosis, 10 days in ketosis, and let your body clean itself out, and you realign your relationship with food. It's a wonderful thing to do. And that's the nubbin of the phenomenon, that a time in ketosis can have some beneficial effects. But we're Americans, right? And if a little is good, more must be better. Ooh, if 10 days in ketosis is good, well, how about 20? How about 30? How about 6 months in ketosis? Oh, I can beat that. How about a year in ketosis?
The rest of my life.
The rest of my life. And that's where this has spun itself into. Well, your body's got something to say about that. The ketosis is a good thing for a short period of time, but ketones are acidic molecules. This is an acid load. This is a state of low-grade acidosis, and your liver's got to deal with these acids. Your kidneys have to deal with these acids. Your bones have to deal with these acids, and there are going to be changes. There probably not all of them are good. Whether it's going to make you lose bone density, whether it may set you up for fatty livers, and high protein diets are hard on the kidneys. When all those amino acids slam into your glomeruli, into your kidney filters, it hurts them. It makes the kidney go into the state of hyperfiltration, and it's stressful for the kidneys. And these high protein diets are, I think, a ticket to the dialysis machine. And the body wasn't. Yeah, it's similar to driving your car and you're on the freeway and you come up behind a truck and you want to pass the truck and you pull out and you hit the accelerator, passing gear, and you hit that special gear and you pass the truck and you pull in, yay, good, passing gear. But you don't want to drive from LA to Seattle in passing gear. You burn out your engine. And to stay in ketosis week after week after week, man, then this is hard on the machinery. And one question is, if someone's got a cancer, as the months go by, could this constant acidosis, could this change in the biochemistry actually weaken the immune system and allow the cancer to grow even more? Nobody's done this. Outside of the so-called vegan keto program, which we can talk about, this program, one way or the other, involves packing your intestines full of fat and meat and protein, 2-3 times a day. And well, that to me is a recipe for colon cancer. That's a recipe for clogged arteries, heart attacks and strokes. It's a recipe for dementia as you tear up the brain blood vessels. What kind of microbes are going to spawn in your gut? Are these people setting themselves up for colitis, for Crohn's disease, for kidney failure? There's a high-fat diet makes people insulin resistant, and you might have type 2 diabetes. This is not a diet of health. Now, people get an initial improvement because they lose weight initially and they feel a bit better when they stop the oil and the dairy and the flour products. So, see, you lost weight, your diabetes, your numbers got better, yay, keto, staying keto permanently.
And inflammation can go down.
And inflammation can go down. But in my lectures to the doctors, I say, do not be seduced by these early changes. It's largely just due from the weight loss. But as the weeks go by, you'll find is you've been putting diesel fuel in a gasoline-burning engine. We are not carnivorous apes. We are not flesh-eating simians. We are plant-eating creatures. When you look at it, we have fingers, not claws, on our hands. We've got these long intestines. We've got basically the same digestive system that our gorilla and bonobo cousins have, and they're up in the trees eating leaves and fruit, and we are basically plant-eating hominids, and we violate that natural law at our own risk. And I think these people are setting themselves up for an epidemic of serious diseases. But given how fragmented the medical system is, where you often don't see the same doctor when you come back to the clinic, the patients move away, doctors move away, it's so fragmented that the doctor who sees them at one point says, oh, you should be eating keto or you should eat paleo, and the patient does that, and that doctor is long gone. I say, the doctor who made this dietary prescription, you're going to be around in 10 years when this guy passes his first bloody stool from that colon cancer that your diet initiated. You won't be around to see that. You're going to be around 15 years when this lady has her stroke from that carotid plaque that your meat-based diet spawned in her carotid artery. You won't be around to see that. You're going to be around in 15 years when this guy's joints light up from the inflammatory arthritis from his leaky gut that your diet spawned there. You guys won't even be around to see it. You think you've done something good for these folks. But this is drive-by dietary advice. Nobody's done these diets for 10 years, for 20 years. They have no idea what they're really talking about. People have done blue zone diets, plant-based diets, for centuries. We know that a plant-based diet is compatible with long life. But talk about a fad diet. But as I said, the people dispensing this advice, I think they're amateurs, and they really literally don't know what they are saying. Nobody does. And I have great concerns about people following this dietary advice.
I read an article recently, and this was a medical doctor interviewing another medical doctor who is now championing the carnivore diet, and he has been on it for 1.5 years. And I'm just like, a year and a half? That's all? Like, that's not very long to be a Mr. Keto MD or whatever, carnivore MD. I'm not going to name any names, but yeah. And so it is shocking what a short time span. I mean, this is such a short fad anyway, but people are instant experts at it and telling everyone else to do it with no long-term studies, no populations in the world that eat this way. And the same people who say that are like, oh, you can't trust observational studies. They're inherently flawed, blah, 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 blah. And, you just need to do what I'm telling you to do.
Right. Well, I'd like to know what he's brewing up in his colon wall, and what's the state of his arteries, and what's happening in his prostate gland. And
it'll take some time for those
things.
It'll
take some time. It's going to take a few years, but it's a pretty safe bet something's going to happen to that man's health. I don't wish it on him, but boy, he's waving that red cape in front of the bull with that kind of diet, and that bull's going to charge. And one day he's going to pass that bloody stool, or you get those sore joints, and he's going to be the sorriest man in town. And he's going to say, what did I tell all these people to do? And it's do no harm applies to dietary advice.
You talk a lot about sugar, oil, and salt. And we know that the standard American diet, the Western diet, is loaded with too much sodium, too much fat and oils, way too much sugar. But I know there's a community of plant-based eaters that are also SOS free, so they avoid those things too. The question I have for you is, what would you say to someone who says, well, if I read the China study and I read the blue zones and I look at some of these wonderful observational studies, I look at the Adventist health studies, and the plant-based eaters have exceptional health and long life, but they're not necessarily sugar-free or oil-free or salt-free. They keep it pretty low. I know there's a gray area there.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Right. Well, my gray hairs put me in the gray area there because I'm in that area.
I mean, are they as big of I guess the question is, are they really as big of a risk for someone eating whole food plant-based as they are for someone eating just junk?
No, in directly addressing that issue, no. I think the whole food plant-based eater is leagues ahead, regardless just from the nature of the food stream going through his tissues there. If there's a little bit of added salt or sugar, I don't think it's going to make any long-term difference at all. Plus, as Dr. McDougall says, all this food has all this wonderful value, but if the person doesn't like it, is not going to eat it. And if a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar makes him eat the food, it definitely really does the job there. And again,
I appreciate that. Yeah. I know people they can really get hung up on the little things.
Yeah.
Something I like to say is, don't let the little things get in the way of the big things.
Exactly. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yes.
And as the toxicologists say, it's a much less romantic image, but the dose makes the poison. And you don't want to eat sugars of food when you're eating cakes and donuts and candy bars. You're eating sugars of food. It was never meant for that. But it's a sweetening agent. Half a teaspoon of maple syrup in your tea is not going to hurt anybody. And say a little sprinkle of salt on the table is fine. But the spaghetti sauce at the Italian restaurant is loaded with salt, and you can't do anything about that. But it's okay to put a little pinch of salt right on your vegetables at the table. And a couple of drops of sesame oil for flavoring is not going to cause any harm. But you don't want to be pouring cups of olive oil on thinking, oh, Mediterranean diet, I'm doing some heart healthy. Well, that's what it's become. So again, we're talking about flavorings here, not foods.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think that'll give a lot of people some ease, because it always bothers me to see people get so hung up on stuff that it kind of paralyzes them, right? They kind of end up in a prison, dietary prison, and then they get almost orthorexic, right?
Exactly. Eating should not be an anxiety-producing event. Yeah. And like Dr. Campbell says in his book, it's the quality of the whole food stream. If the majority of what's moving through you grew out of the garden, if it's salads and soups and green veggies and casseroles and lentil stews, a little bit of salt or a little bit of sweetener does not make any difference as long as the whole food stream is whole food and plant-based.
So last thing I'd like to ask you about, and then I got a couple quick questions to close, is what are you doing now?
Right. After 47 years of doing retail medicine and dealing with people one at a time, and it's sacred, beautiful work if you can help somebody turn their life around, I realize in the few years I have left, there's a more important arena for me to work in, and that's the young medical students, in that we're churning out doctors from the nation's medical schools that are totally ignorant of nutrition. We practice medicine like what our patients are eating has no effect on these diseases they're bringing to us, when the reality is that's why they're sitting in front of us, obese and diabetic and hypertensive and clogged up and inflamed from the meat and the dairy and the oils and the sugars they're running through their system every few hours. And to ignore that and to just have the patient come back once a month so you can raise their metformin dose or raise their insulin dose without asking, what are you eating, is bankrupt medicine. And so I've been going, our initiative is called Moving Medicine Forward. It's a 501c3 umbrella organization that sends me around to the nation's medical schools, where I give the first, second, and third year medical students the lecture I wish someone had given me when I was a first year student, that before you order another $1,000 scan, another $500 set of lab tests, ask the patient what they ate yesterday. And if it's full of burgers and buffalo wings and pepperoni pizzas, that's why they're sitting in front of you. Get real with that. And send the patient to the plant-based dietitian, let her do the counseling, let her show them the videos, let her take them shopping, let her get them on a plant-based diet. You see them back in a month and see if they're not doing better, which they will be. But it does not serve the patient or the doctor to practice medicine like you're not dealing with dietary diseases, because all of them, the surgeons, the pediatricians, the allergists, the dermatologists, they're all looking at dietary diseases these days. They all need to understand this. So
what's the reception been like?
The reception has been very good for two reasons. One, we don't mess with administration. We go right to the students. The students arrange the event. They arrange the lecture hall, and it eliminates a lot of resistance from the administration,
faculty.
Absolutely, because the doctors are reading it themselves. Absolutely. And second, it makes it easier because in every first, second, third year medical school class now, there's 20 or 30 students who've seen films like Forks Over Knives. They've seen What the Hell. They see Cowspiracy. The light's on. They get it. And it gives me such hope, because the older professors in the back of the room like this, what is this subversive message this guy is saying? But the students, they understand the importance of what their patients are eating. Plus, they understand the environmental issues, and these are young people, and they got kids themselves, and what kind of world are we creating for our young ones? And so they're very interested. So it's been a fairly easy sell as far as my presentation. And then we want to develop an electronic platform. So once a month, medical students from across the country can sign on. We'll send everybody a nutrition-based case, and we'll talk about the clinical nutrition aspects of the case, and keep the nutrition awareness going in the heads of these folks, so it's not a one-time drive-by lecture. And our goal is to get nutrition-based questions on the National Board of Medical Examiners, National Board exams, and we're working with the American College of Lifestyle Medicine to get those nutrition questions on the board exams, and to turn out a generation of nutritionally aware doctors. So they always ask, what are you eating? Take me through a typical eating day. And once you see it, once you look behind the curtain, you can't pretend you don't know what's behind the curtain. And once they see you're looking at dietary diseases, is what your patients are eating is the issue, start there. Once they get that, they become much more effective physicians and much happier physicians. They don't drop out of medicine, hopefully, like their colleagues are now doing. They're all getting fat and sick. That's right, doctor. If you don't talk to them about what they're eating, that's what you're going to see. But if you talk to them about their diet, you'll become the happiest doctor because your patients will get healthy. And so I finished my presentation with a provocative question to the students. I say, now that we know that these fearsome diseases are reversible, the diabetes and the high blood pressure and the inflammatory arthritis, know that they're reversible with a plant-based diet, you want to heal these patients, or don't you? Really, why'd you go into medicine? You want to heal these patients? If you do, then get real about what they're eating, because that's why they're sitting in front of you, doctor. And if you do that and you bring plant-based nutrition in, you see this wonderful transformation. And I say, what else could you want as a physician than to see your patient restored to glowing health? So you'll see him at the health food store and on the bike path. That's the only place you'll see him. That'll make you a happy doctor too.
I love it. So I was having a conversation with a woman after my talk today, and she came up and she was talking about, everybody has a story about a friend who's gone through cancer, and maybe that person, didn't want to change their diet or do anything, and she tried to talk to her and say, oh, you should read this book, or, and the lady's response to her was, my doctor said there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I should put that on a t-shirt, right?
Exactly. And
tragic?
I start my presentation off with an apology. I want to apologize to all of you people who had encountered a physician that dismissed you when you brought up the question of nutrition, who had this abysmal ignorance of the importance of what you were eating. On behalf of my profession, I apologize to you for that. And it's embarrassing to hear that story. The state of nutritional awareness among my profession is an embarrassment. Yeah, and we're working hard to reverse that. And medical science, we can identify a genetic mismatch on gene A21 on chromosome 14. Boy, we can home in on that with precision. But the thought that cheeseburgers and pizzas might be clogging up our patients' arteries, this is too abstruse a concept for my colleagues to understand. Well, that can't stand. It's time to get real about food. So we're trying to turn doctors and the public onto that.
All right, here's a fun question.
Sure.
If you could only eat the same thing every day, your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, different meals, but
right.
you got to pick your breakfast,
right.
lunch, and dinner for the rest of your life.
Yep.
What would it be?
Okay. I love fruit and oatmeal in the morning with half a teaspoon of maple syrup on it, I must admit. And lunch and dinner, I could live on soup, salads, and greens, and we mostly do. My wife makes these hearty vegetable soup, where she throws in lots of grains and legumes and veggies. She makes a big salad. She makes wonderful tahini salad dressing, and steam up some kale or broccoli and some sweet potatoes, and I'm a happy guy. And so there's always going to be soup, salads, and greens, and then if there's a quinoa dish or a stir fry, I'm happy along with that. But it's oatmeal in the morning and soup, salads, and greens, lunches and dinners.
Sounds like our house.
Indeed.
That's great. Okay, the last question is, somebody comes to you with cancer. What do they need to know?
Right.
Even if you're not their physician, but you know what I'm saying? Like, what does a cancer patient need to know?
Okay. Well, you've, in your brave journey, you've in many ways embodied the archetype of what a person needs to do. They clearly, with no blame attached, up to that point, created a body that supports cancer growth, that supports the initiation and growth of cancer. All right, well, what were they eating? What were they thinking? What was their stress level, etc.? All right, one by one, we got to undo each one of those to transform that body into one that doesn't support a cancer growth. And so as you did, every meal has to, as the nutrients flow through the body, has to send that chemical message of shh, calm down. So again, it's whole plant foods in as unadulterated form as possible. And exercise is so important. Get out there and walk, get the heart rate up, pump that oxygenated blood through your system, flush out those wastes. So reclaiming your physicality on a reasonable level. Drinking enough water is important. Give your kidneys enough water to flush these wastes out with. Get enough sleep. The body heals when we sleep, and there's no cheating on that. It catches up with you one way or the other. Clean up your diets, get rid of the sugars and the junk food and the fried oils and all that stuff. So every meal is a healing meal, and get yourself happy. It's a scary thing. You've got advanced cancer, but we're not here to suffer. If there's something in your life, you're angry at your boss or your miserable marriage, or fix what you can fix. Get yourself happy. We're not here to suffer, and that suffering had something to do with the initiation of that cancer growth. So that's too something else has to be done. So go down the list of all the things that may have contributed to cancer growth, untie each one of those knots, lay them all nice and flat there, and give yourself a big hug there. And transform your body and your life into one that doesn't support the growth of cancer. And you just are an exemplar for that. And you laid it out just beautifully in your presentations. Exactly as you were going down the list, that's exactly what to do. And you're just a beautiful example of how the body has this healing power. The body doesn't want to be cancerous. It doesn't want to. It's such an abnormal state. It was like, from what you were eating and the life you were living, it's like you're driving the car and the red light came on the dashboard. That's your cancer with a red light. So, check the oil, check the water, check the fuel, check your life, and you listened to it and you did what you needed to do. Most people just keep driving there. So I really commend you and thank you for the service you provided with this. With your experience and the wonderful communication you're doing to help so many viewers.
Thank you, Dr. Klapper. That means so much to me to hear you say that. It's just such an encouragement to have your admiration or respect or endorsement or whatever.
Certainly have that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's something that you said that I wanted to sort of touch on, is this idea that when you have cancer, you got to put on your detective hat.
Yes.
Right? And you just said it, but you have to uncover everything in your life that may be contributing to your disease. And you can't figure it out all in 5 minutes, right? That's where reading and researching and watching, other interviews with doctors and experts and people who've healed, and seeing the big picture, finding the common threads and understanding, oh, my diet, okay, that's a part of it. Oh, I'm overweight. Oh, the stress in my life and the unhappiness. So it's this sort of the onion, right? You're peeling the layers back and figuring out, oh, wow, there's a lot of stuff in my life that could be making me sick. It's probably all making me sick at the same time, and like systematically untying those knots, right, or undoing those things. It's just part of the healing process.
Exactly.
You said it beautifully. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
You're so welcome.
So much fun.
Thank you. Oh, it was a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you, and best
Now,
of health to everyone.
Where can people find you?
Yes, go to my website, drklapper.com. It's all spelled out, DOCTORKLAPER, 1P in Klapper.com, and click on Moving Medicine Forward. You'll see it as soon as you get to the webpage, and you can learn about what we're doing. You can, if you know a medical student at a school, or you have a surgeon friend on staff at a medical school, give us their name and number. There's a place to do that. We will contact them about possibly my coming into range of visit, or do it electronically by Skype. And if you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, we're paying for our own plane tickets to get us to the medical schools, so any financial help would certainly be appreciated as well. So thanks for letting me get that message out.
Yeah, that's a worthy cause. We'll also link to your books on Amazon, link to your site. You know, we'll make sure that there's resources there in the show notes for this video. If you're watching on chrisbeatcancer.com, you'll see them. If you're on YouTube or listening to the podcast, just click the show notes and to connect with Dr. Klapper, find out what he's doing, and get involved.
Great.
Okay,
really
thanks for
that.
watching, everybody. Please share this video. If you got to the end of it, you know how awesome it is, and there's people in your life that need to hear this message, and there are medical professionals in your life that need to hear this message. So please share this with not only the healthy people or cancer patients, but if you know some doctors or nurses or anyone in the medical profession, please share this, because they will pay attention to Dr. Klapper. They will pay attention to other medical professionals when we're talking about health and nutrition. And I think it's encouraging, because the movement is growing faster than I think ever before.
Yes, sure is.
And I'm very encouraged by the young generation, the new generation of doctors, the ones that you're getting to. You're on the ground doing the grunt work to advance the mission in the medical field, which is so incredible and so just admirable. I just am so excited about that. And so not only am I excited that doctors are just kind of finding this information and getting tuned into plant-based nutrition, but that you're out there hitting them over the head with it. Yeah, beating them up and saying, do you really care about your patients getting well? Or I misquoted you, but
yeah, you want to heal them or don't you?
You want to heal them or don't you? So anyway, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.